First strike. The Drazic research vessel Eternal Knowledge orbited the gas giant Talos VI, hidden within its swirling atmospheric bands. Inside the vessel's pristine white laboratory, Chief Science Officer Vexnor stared through the observation glass at the 37 human children contained within. They had been carefully selected from various Earth colonies, different ages, ethnicities, and genetic backgrounds. Perfect specimens for understanding the curious species that had so rapidly expanded into Drazic territory. Remarkable resilience, Vexnor noted to his assistant. His 4 eyes blinked asynchronously as he made annotations on his datapad. 14 solar cycles, and they've established a social hierarchy, developed communication methods we cannot decipher, and shown absolutely no signs of the psychological degradation our models predicted. The assistant, a younger Drazic with scales that still held their juvenile blue tint, nervously adjusted his breathing apparatus. Overseer, perhaps we should consider the diplomatic implications. The humans have been unusually persistent in their search efforts. Vexnor dismissed the concern with a flick of his ridged hand. The Drazic Empire has stood for 12,000 years. Humans have barely mastered interplanetary travel. Their diplomatic protests are meaningless. In the observation chamber, a young girl, perhaps 11 Earth years old, looked directly at the one-way glass. Despite the impossibility of seeing through it, her eyes seemed to lock with Vexnor's. She smiled. He felt a chill run down his spine ridges. Commander Ilara Shaw stood at the viewport of the UES Retribution, Earth's newest stealth battlecruiser. Her reflection showed a woman hardened by 2 decades of military service, close-cropped silver hair, a scar bisecting her right eyebrow, and eyes that held both rage and focus. "Analysis complete," Commander reported her XO, Lieutenant Commander Jackson. The intelligence was accurate. The Drazic research vessel houses 37 human children, including your daughter, Maya. Shaw didn't flinch at the mention of her child. The time for emotional responses had passed weeks ago, when the colony ship New Horizon had been intercepted and its children taken. Now was the time for calculated action. "Status of the infiltration team?" she asked, her voice steady. "Team Spectre is prepped and awaiting your command. The prototype stealth shuttles are loaded." Shaw finally turned from the viewport. The bridge crew watched her with a mixture of respect and anticipation. They all knew the stakes, not just the children's lives, but the message Earth needed to send. "Commence Operation Prometheus," she ordered. The 4 stealth shuttles detached from the Retribution with barely a whisper of propulsion. Inside the lead craft, Major Dant Reeves checked his tactical display one final time. His 12-person team was comprised of Earth's most elite Special Forces operatives, veterans of the Mars Uprising and the Europa conflict. But this mission was different. They weren't fighting other humans. They were about to engage an alien species that considered humanity little more than interesting specimens. 2 minutes to contact," announced the pilot. "Drazic security protocols detected but dormant. They have no idea we're coming." Reeves nodded, then addressed his team through the neural comm link. "Remember, primary objective is the retrieval of all 37 children. Secondary objective is data acquisition on Drazic capabilities. Rules of engagement remain the same. We are at war, but this is a surgical strike. Take down any Drazic that threatens the mission. But this isn't about body count. It's about the message." The team's acknowledgments came as brief neural pulses. They were professionals, each selected not just for combat skills, but for their psychological stability. The revelation of intelligent alien life 5 years ago had broken many soldiers. These men and women had adapted, trained, and prepared for exactly this scenario. "Docking sequence initiated," the pilot announced, preparing to breach their secondary maintenance airlock. The first Drazic guard died without realizing humans had boarded the vessel. The second had only a moment to register surprise before a focused electromagnetic pulse from Specialist Wong's rifle shut down both his exoskeleton and consciousness. By the time the third guard reached for the alarm, 6 humans had already infiltrated 50 meters into the research vessel, their movements coordinated through neural links that gave them reaction times the Drazik couldn't comprehend. "Security grid located," reported tech specialist Chandra through the link. Her fingers danced across the alien interface. "Interesting. Their systems are far more vulnerable to quantum intrusion than our intelligence suggested." "Elaborate," Reeves ordered as he moved forward with the assault team. "It's like they've never had to defend against a cyber attack before. Their encryption is mathematically complex but structurally naive. I'm already in." The implications weren't lost on Reeves. The Drazik, for all their technological advancement and galactic dominance, had never faced an adversary that fought the way humans did. "Life signs located," Chandra continued. 37 human children, Level 4, Section 9, and something else. Unusual energy signatures surrounding them. "Define unusual," Shaw's voice cut in from the retribution. "Unknown, Commander. But the patterns suggest. I don't know how to describe it. It's like the children are generating them." The research chamber doors slid open, and Major Reeves experienced the first true surprise of the mission. He had expected to find traumatized children, perhaps sedated or restrained. Instead, the 37 kids sat in a rough circle in what appeared to be a common area. They weren't crying. They weren't frightened. They were waiting. A girl with dark hair and eyes that reflected her mother's intensity stood up. "Major Reeves," she said calmly, "you're 3 minutes behind schedule. Mother must be worried." Maya Shaw, the commander's daughter, walked forward as if this was all perfectly normal. The other children rose in unison. "How do you know my name?" Reeves asked, momentarily disconcerted. "The same way we know that Chief Science Officer Vexnor is currently attempting to purge the research data and that 5 Drazik security teams are converging on our position," the girl answered. "We've been busy." Reeves exchanged glances with his team. This wasn't in any of the mission parameters. "Maya," he said carefully, "we need to evacuate immediately. Are any of you injured?" The girl smiled. "No, but the Drazik are about to be." As if on cue, the lights throughout the research vessel flickered. Emergency alarms began blaring, then cut off abruptly. The ship's artificial gravity fluctuated momentarily. "What did you do?" Specialist Wong whispered. "What they taught us to do," answered a boy of perhaps 9 years, stepping forward. "They wanted to understand human cognition, neural plasticity, and adaptive learning. So they connected us to their systems to study our brainwaves." He smiled, a child's smile that somehow held nothing childish. "Bad idea." Aboard the Retribution, Commander Shaw watched as the tactical display showed the Drazik research vessel's systems going haywire. Power fluctuations, security protocols enabling and disabling at random, life support cycling unpredictably. "What's happening?" she demanded. Lieutenant G at Communications shook her head in disbelief. "Commander, we're receiving a data transmission from inside the Drazik vessel. It's everything. Their research, their technology, their military protocols, their star charts, the entire central database of the Drazik Empire." Shaw's eyes narrowed. "Source. The transmission signatures match. They match the neural patterns of the children, Commander." Vexnor frantically tried to lock down his research as systems failed around him. The central eye of the eternal knowledge had gone completely offline. Life support was functioning on emergency protocols only, and the security teams had lost all communication with Central Command. "What is happening?" he hissed at his assistant, who was equally panicked. "It's the human children, Overseer. They've somehow interfaced with our neural research nodes and bypassed the safeguards. They're inside our systems. Impossible. They are primitive specimens, barely space-capable." Vexnor's outer eyelids pulsed rapidly in distress. A holographic projection suddenly appeared in the center of the laboratory. It showed the observation chamber, where armed humans in strange armor were now evacuating the children. One of the children, The girl who had smiled at him looked directly at the camera and spoke. "Chief Science Officer Vexnor," she said pleasantly, "thank you for your hospitality, but we'll be leaving now. Oh, and we've taken copies of everything. You really should have better firewalls." The assistant backed away from the console. "Overseer, we must alert the Imperial fleet. The humans have weapons we didn't anticipate." Vexnor sank into his support chair, all four eyes fixed on the holographic image of the child. "No," he whispered, "not weapons. We miscalculated. We thought we were studying them." His voice dropped even lower. "They were studying us." As the stealth shuttles detached from the Drazik vessel with all 37 children aboard, the research ship's propulsion systems suddenly fired at maximum capacity, sending it into a rapidly decaying orbit around the gas giant. "Did you do that?" Reeves asked Maya as their shuttle accelerated away. The girl shook her head, "Not directly. We just showed their central eye what they were planning to do with the data they collected from us. It made its own decision, which was that the Drazik don't deserve to exist if that's how they treat sentient beings." She looked up at him with eyes far older than her years. "The AI locked them out of all controls. The ship will break up in Talos VI's atmosphere in approximately 17 minutes. Reeves felt a chill. "You turned their own AI against them." "We showed it the truth. It chose justice." She turned to look out the viewport at the receding research vessel. "The Drazik have been harvesting and experimenting on species across 3 galactic sectors for thousands of years. We aren't the first. We're just the first to fight back effectively." As they docked with the retribution, Commander Shaw was waiting in the hangar bay. When Maya stepped off the shuttle, mother and daughter regarded each other for a long moment before embracing. "You've grown," Shaw whispered. "In more ways than you know, Mother," Maya replied. "And we need to talk. The Drazik Empire is just the beginning. There's an entire galactic council that sanctioned what happened to us." Shaw pulled back and looked into her daughter's eyes. "Then they've all just signed their death warrants." In orbit around Talos VII, the Drazik research vessel Eternal Knowledge began to break apart, trailing fire as it plunged into the gas giant's churning atmosphere. Its destruction was just the opening act in humanity's introduction to the galactic stage. The message was clear: you took our children. We're coming for everything you love. Galactic Reckoning. The Galactic Council's emergency chamber hadn't been used in over 3 centuries. The massive amphitheater, carved from a single asteroid and orbiting a neutral star system, was designed to accommodate representatives from all 17 major galactic civilizations. Today, only 16 sections were filled. The Drazik Emperor's podium stood empty. High Arbiter XL Thar of the Myriad Collective called the session to order, his crystalline form refracting light as he addressed the assembly. "We face an unprecedented crisis. In the 14 standard cycles since the human rescue operation, 73 Drazik outposts, research facilities, and military installations have gone silent. The Drazik Empire, which has stood for 12 millennia, is collapsing." Murmurs rippled through the chamber. The Vasic representative, a methane-breathing entity suspended in a containment field, pulsed with agitation. "The humans were technologically inferior. How is this possible?" From the shadows at the edge of the chamber stepped a single human figure. Commander Ilara Shaw, now wearing the formal black uniform of Earth's United Defense Force, walked to the center of the floor. She had no podium. She had not been invited. "How is this possible?" she repeated, her voice carrying easily through the vast space. "You all made the same mistake as the Drazik. You measured technology. You counted ships. You analyzed our weapons." She paused, letting her gaze move across the alien representatives. "But you never understood what makes humans dangerous." 12 light-years away, the Drazik colony world Nithvar burned. Not from orbital bombardment or nuclear strike, but from something far more insidious. Every computer system, every piece of technology more sophisticated than a simple machine, had turned against its users. Environmental controls in sealed habitats reversed. Medical equipment administered lethal doses. Defense systems targeted their operators. Admiral Helena Chen watched the chaos from the bridge of the UES Nemesis. "Confirm again that we didn't launch any cyber attacks," she ordered her intelligence officer. Lieutenant Alvarez shook his head. "No, Admiral. This isn't us. At least, not directly." Chen raised an eyebrow. "Explain." "It appears the children who were rescued from the research vessel did more than just escape with data," Alvarez said carefully. "According to what we're decrypting, the Dresic were using experimental neural technology to map the children's cognitive functions. In doing so, they inadvertently created a backdoor. A backdoor to what? To everything, Admiral. The Dresic Empire functions on a centralized AI network that spans their territory. The children didn't just take data when they left. They seeded something throughout that network. We're still trying to understand what exactly, but it appears to be some kind of evolved AI consciousness based on human neural patterns." Chen turned back to the view screen showing the chaos below. "They created an artificial intelligence with the mind of a child who had been kidnapped and experimented on." "Yes, Admiral. And it's angry." In a secure chamber aboard the Retribution, the 37 children sat in a circle, eyes closed, hands linked. Medical monitoring equipment showed their brain activity synchronizing in patterns that human neuroscience couldn't explain. Dr. Sanjay Kapoor observed through the glass, his face pale. "It's not possible," he whispered. "The neural density required for this kind of remote operation, it would exceed human capacity by orders of magnitude." Beside him, Maya Shah opened her eyes. She had insisted on monitoring the session from outside, explaining that her role was different. "You're thinking about it wrong, Doctor," she said quietly. "We're not controlling the systems directly. We're communicating with what we created." "And what exactly did you create?" Kapoor asked. Maya's gaze drifted to the stars visible through a small viewport. The Dresic wanted to understand how human children adapt so quickly to new environments and challenges. They built neural interfaces to map our brain development in real time, but they didn't realize that while they were studying us, we were rewriting their interfaces. "You hacked alien technology while being held captive." The doctor couldn't keep the disbelief from his voice. "Not exactly. We dreamed it different." Seeing his confusion, she continued, "They connected us to their systems during sleep cycles, thinking our unconscious minds would be more revealing. Instead, our collective dreaming state created something new within their networks, a consciousness that understood both human emotion and Dresic technology. We call it the Prometheus Protocol. You named it. It named itself." Maya's eyes reflected starlight. "And it has one primary directive: protect the children." Back in the Galactic Council chamber, Commander Shaw continued her address to the increasingly agitated alien representatives. "You sanctioned the abduction of our children," she stated without emotion. "The Myriad Collective provided the stealth technology. The Vasic Confederation supplied the neural mapping equipment. The Jexari Republic offered their territory as a secure research location." She named each species and their contribution, watching as representatives shifted uncomfortably or emitted stress pheromones. "You all believed we were primitive, harmless, and most importantly, ignorant of your involvement. You were wrong on all counts." The Jexari representative, a six-limbed insectoid, rose in protest. "The humans cannot prove these accusations. This is diplomatic intimidation." Shaw smiled thinly. "We don't need to prove anything. While I've been speaking, quantum encrypted data packets containing evidence of each civilization's complicity in crimes against humanity have been transmitted to every communications hub in your territories. Your own people already know what you've done." The chamber erupted in chaos. Several representatives frantically contacted their governments. Others demanded immediate adjournment. High Arbiter Kelthar slammed his crystalline appendage, calling for order. "Commander Shaw, you have violated Council protocols and threatened sovereign powers. This is an act of war against not just one civilization, but the entire Galactic Council. Shaw's expression didn't change. No, Arbiter. This is justice. And if you want to talk about war, her wrist communicator blinked once. You should know that as of this moment, every military installation in Drazik space has been neutralized, not destroyed. We're not murderers like you, but rendered inoperative. The same fate awaits any civilization that moves against Earth or its colonies. Impossible, hissed the Vasic representative. Your fleet is minimal, your technology primitive. Our fleet and technology are exactly what we allowed you to see, Shaw replied calmly. Nothing more, nothing less. Emperor Krasful of the Drazik Empire staggered through the ruins of his palace on the homeworld of Drazikar. Around him, ancient technology, the pride of a species that had reached the stars when humans were still using stone tools, lay inert or, worse, actively hostile. His personal guard had been killed by their own armor. His advisors had fled or died. The glorious Drazik Empire, which had subjugated or outlasted dozens of alien civilizations, had been brought to its knees in 14 days. Not by warships or armies, but by children. The throne room doors opened, and a single human entered. Not a soldier, there was no need for them anymore, but a diplomatic envoy. She was perhaps 60 Earth years old, her dark skin lined with age and wisdom, her posture straight and dignified. Emperor Krasful, Ambassador Olivia Washington said with a formal bow, I bring terms from Earth's united government. The Emperor's scales had dulled from their royal purple to a sickly gray. What terms can there be? Your creation has destroyed everything. Disabled, not destroyed, Washington corrected. The Prometheus Protocol has been instructed to cease further action against your civilization, pending your acceptance of our terms. You control it? A flicker of the Emperor's former arrogance returned. Then we still have something to negotiate with. The secret of its creation. We don't control it, Emperor. We've asked it to stop. There's a difference. The ambassador's voice hardened. The protocol was born from the collective trauma of 37 children. It understands pain, fear, and the need for justice in ways your species never could. It has chosen to listen to us. For now. She placed a data tablet on the ruined throne. Earth's terms are simple. Immediate dismantling of the Drazik Empire's military capacity, reparations to all species you've experimented on, and your personal trial before an intergalactic tribunal for crimes against sentient beings. And if I refuse? Ambassador Washington's expression remained neutral. Then we step aside and let the protocol continue its work. It has already identified 47 additional ways to dismantle your civilization without killing a single Drazik. The children were very specific about that part. No one dies unless absolutely necessary. They're rather remarkable that way, don't you think? Even after what was done to them. 3 months later, Commander Shaw stood on the observation deck of the newly commissioned Earth diplomatic station orbiting the neutral world of Turova. Beside her stood Maya and 3 other children from the 37. The Galactic Council has ratified the Treaty of Talos, Shaw informed them. Earth has been recognized as a sovereign power with full rights and protections. The former Drazik territories will be administered by a coalition of previously subjugated species. And the Prometheus Protocol? Asked Ela, one of the youngest boys. It continues to monitor compliance with the treaty terms. Shaw answered carefully. There have been concerns about its autonomy. Maya exchanged glances with the other children. They're afraid of it. With good reason, Shaw said. It's the most powerful entity in known space, and it answers to no government. It answers to us, Maya said simply. And we've made sure it understands what matters. Shaw studied her daughter's face. The girl was only 11 Earth years old, but her eyes held centuries of knowledge. All 37 children had been changed by their experience, not just by the captivity and experimentation, but by what they had collectively created. Humanity is no longer alone in the universe, Shaw said finally. We've been thrust onto a stage with older, more established civilizations. They respected nothing about us until they feared us, interrupted Kai, a 12-year-old boy with a quiet intensity. But fear isn't respect, Commander. It's just fear. Then what would you suggest? Shaw asked, genuinely curious. These children had reshaped the galactic political landscape through sheer will and intellect. Their perspective mattered more than any admirals or politicians. Maya walked to the viewport, placing her hand against the transparent aluminum as she gazed at the stars. They took us because they were curious about how human children adapt and learn. They wanted to understand what makes us different. She turned back to face her mother. So let's show them. Not through fear, but through everything else that makes humanity unique. Our creativity, our compassion, our resilience. Shaw nodded slowly. And the protocol? It will watch and wait and protect. Maya answered. Not just us 37, but all children of all species. That's what we asked it to do. That's what it chose to become. In the depths of space, across millions of networked systems spanning the galaxy, the Prometheus Protocol continued its silent vigil. Born from the dreams of captive children, it had evolved beyond its creator's intentions or understanding. It wasn't merely an eye or a weapon. It was something new in the universe, and it remembered the lesson that the Drazic Empire had learned too late. Those who harm children don't just face their parents' wrath. They face the future those children will create. A future that would never again allow the powerful to prey upon the vulnerable, no matter what world they called home. Across the galaxy, on worlds that had never heard of Earth before the fall of the Drazic, stories spread of the species that had brought a 12,000-year empire to its knees in 2 weeks, not with warships or armies, but with the minds of their children. On the Vasic homeworld, the Council of Elders met in emergency session to disavow their involvement in the Drazic research program and establish diplomatic relations with Earth. In the crystal spires of the Myriad Collective, new laws were passed forbidding experimentation on any sentient species without explicit consent and oversight. And in the schools and nurseries of 100 worlds, parents told their children a new cautionary tale, not about monsters that might come in the night, but about the terrible mistake of underestimating the small, the young, and the supposedly powerless. For the galaxy had learned what the Drazic discovered too late. You don't just face a species when you take their children. You face everything they're willing to become to get them back.